At some point, I'm probably going to end up doing, I don't know, a consolidated video about all of the stuff that's been going on in and around BSG for the last like 2 or 3 days. But the plot kind of thickens here a little bit. As of recent, there is a growing concern because of the Reddit posts that took as long as they did for Nikita to finally start to, I guess, somewhat cave to all of the players surrounding Tarkov and kind of trying to make good on what they really should have been doing in the predatory monetization and this $250 package and all of this other stuff. And if you haven't been paying attention to this kind of working its way through, I suggest going back. There's about a dozen videos that are only a few minutes long each that I've been making since last Thursday, or this past Thursday at 4 a.m. Eastern was when it started. Nikita tried to somewhat give a kind of sort of mea culpa and basically ended up saying, I'm sorry that you all are feeling so bad about all of this, but here's what I'm going to try and do for all of you. And then made a series of bullet points that were incredibly vague, some of which saying that they were going to end up giving us PvE mode for the EOD holders after the game went to a 1.0 live state, which has an open-ended date. We have no idea when that's going to be. The modification of these like game-breaking pay-to-win mechanics that got inserted, added into the game. And for those of you that know or think that you know about how the scav radio works and all this other stuff, and for those of you that aren't aware of it, there's now an item in the game that says once you have 6.0 or higher fence rep, scavs outside of 60 meters will no longer aggro you. Now, the catch to that is if you kill a scav or scavs, you lose 0.05 reputation. But if you kill a single PMC on the map, it doesn't matter how many scavs you killed, all is forgiven and you lose nothing. This, of course, is in addition to the discounts and the faster insurance return speed and all the other stuff that that one item provides, plus this summoning beacon that people have an awful lot of concern about, and that Nikita in his own interview that he did with his own emissaries said that the item was going to be usable in PvP and he might look at restricting it. Might. On Reddit, he said that he was going to look at roping those things in, but gave no timeline, no roadmap, nor any indication insofar as how that was going to work. He also said that there would be additional perks given to people that held EOD, but again, gave no indication in terms of what those things would look like. So more or less, now that we have gone through this period of time where the devs have actively lied to us about what it is that we should expect, lied to us about the website being modified in real time in front of Landmark's own eyes, said that the people that were EOD account holders and having issue with all of this were not true believers, and we would see who the true believers were, offered us a 50% discount on the upgraded package, but still would not give us any kind of PvE mode, save for a 6-month run that we were then offered, along with priority queues, which was a problem, and then finally ended up caving to get to where we are now. We also have a going concern from a group of different organizations. Now, I want to take you back a handful of years. Back in the day when Eroctic was one of the larger YouTubers and streamers that had anything to do with Tarkov, some of the first guides that I ever watched about Tarkov had to do with finding keys and whatnot from Eroctic and where those keys went. He was a great source of knowledge. He ended up making a video that had to do with speaking with a cheater about cheats in this game. And for that, BSG copyright struck him some 30 times. At the time, I was an emissary for Escape from Tarkov. I was volunteering to help the US audience, the Western audience, talk with the development team by way of their CMs. It was a very early, very fledgling process that they had tried to set up to do this. Myself and actually Veritas at the time were the two people slated to be involved in this. When Eroctic ended up being copy struck, I ended up leaving my position over this. And I specifically remember Nikita himself in a Telegram conversation saying himself to copyright strike Eroctic. I watched it happen in real time. Since then, several other organizations, YouTubers, whatnot, have been copyright struck for talking about things that BSG would rather you not talk about. SPT being the primary thing that ends up getting people copyright struck. Until, of course, the last few days, when Clean was able to coerce Nikita into allowing him to stream SPT Tarkov and allowed all of us, I guess, to be able to stream SPT Tarkov as well, because while I was visiting Clean Stream today, he mentioned that so long as you don't show people how to install it or where it is on the website or any of that other stuff, you're not giving people a tutorial step by step, you're more than welcome to stream it. Smitty Stone has been doing it himself, and several other streamers have joined along. But that only seems to work for the Western audience. I want to introduce you to a guy named Red. This is Red. Red is a Russian YouTuber that has been around for several years, 4 or 5 years now. He's made over 350 YouTube videos about Escape from Tarkov. Red is in a position where he, for talking about SPT, ended up having his YouTube channel copyright struck twice at the hands of BSG. And for a time, according to him, anyone that even so much as mentioned his name in one of their own YouTube videos would also have their YouTube video copyright struck by BSG, just for mentioning that Red existed. And just about a year and a half ago, Blue Drake 42, the guy in charge of Drakeling Labs, founder of Operation Harsh Doorstop, basically created because people said, well, if you're going to be critical of video games, why don't you just go and make your own? So he did. Blue Drake ended up making a video about a year and a half ago that had to do with offline or SPT Tarkov, and ended up having his video copyright struck as a result. And of course, throughout time, all of us were like, well, what the hell? Why would you do that? Of course they're going to copyright strike you, except within the realm of what Tarkov and Nikita Boyanov are capable of actually doing when it comes to copyright claims like this. The DMCA copyright strike system is not the system by which people should be making those claims. It's actually supposed to be done through a different process to make those copyright claims. Because the DMCA talks about transformative content, not content that you own that shouldn't be getting used. For instance, me, if I were to show SPT footage of somebody else playing the game and I were to use my voice over it, that would be what is known as transformative content. BSG, for that reason, would not be able to copyright strike it under DMCA guidelines. They would have to use a different form of copyright claim that takes longer. But they don't do that. They just use the DMCA, which is illegal. But that isn't even really the core of this going concern. The core of this is that BSG seems to lash out against people that they deem unworthy or that they don't like. And this seems to ebb and flow from day to day or time to time. I myself have been subject of several targeted attacks, and so is Tiggs even, regarding certain things that we say and certain things that we've shown, things that we've mentioned. Tweets that I have written have gotten me banned from the official EFT Discord for a period of time, merely because I made mention of a rumor that I had heard, not even something that was under NDA that I wasn't supposed to see, or something that I wasn't supposed to go and look at, or information that I knew that was given to me by BSG that I wasn't supposed to share. It was something that somebody DM'd to me, and I would make a tweet about new netcode that I heard that they might be working on, which could end up improving the game. That alone got me a timeout from the official EFT Discord for a week, which brings me to this tweet. It was written just a handful of minutes ago from Evasion, the people that run the most popular tournaments in all of Tarkov, with the exception of maybe Twitch Rivals. We have produced over 200 Tarkov shows, but if you've wondered why we haven't been as active as we once were, it's because we will not be railroaded into doing events that we don't believe in. What happened to the Tarkov community over the past week is what's been happening to us for the last 2 years dealing with BSG. Promises not kept, gaslighting, event cancellations, control issues, blatant nepotism, all while wasting our time, money, and efforts. This year, we found out how terribly they have been treating the smaller event orgs as well. Now, this treatment has spread to the player base. We've held back sharing this information, but seeing how the community was treated as a whole recently was too much. We will not create Tarkov events until we see things truly change. Now, that is pretty damning, because the Evasion tournament people, Sigma especially, has put her heart and soul, along with all of the other volunteers and the Evasion esports team, how hard that they have worked on most of these events from years ago, 4 or 5 years ago when these events first began. To see an organization like this talk about how they have been railroaded, manhandled, and messed around with by the administration at Battlestate Games is horrendous. Now, I myself have not heard of a gaming organization that has had such a problem with an indie dev studio like BSG ever. I hear this stuff coming from AAA studios sometimes, places like Activision, Warzone, where they end up like really micromanaging and giving the ability or not for people to even run any tournaments at all. You see that kind of stuff happen. But at no point have I seen an indie dev go as far overboard as what a lot of people have been claiming that BSG has pulled. And for whatever reason, people on our side of the fence, gamers, people that enjoy this video game, seem to constantly and consistently turn a blind eye to the misgivings of BSG and the things that they have pulled over time, simply because we just want to enjoy our video game. And while I understand the desire to want to be entertained, there has to be some level of credence given to the constant overreaching and additional steps and the little baby steps forward that BSG seems to take, where they seem to try and take further and further advantage, ever so much gaining just a little bit of ground whenever they start ratcheting things back. It's like they try to take a monstrous step forward, and then when checked, they take 3/4 of that step back, but they still gained a little. And it seems like they do it again and again and again. Now, I realize that as a content creator, I am not in a position where I play Tarkov every single day anymore. But that also gives me the freedom to be able to talk about this because I'm no longer in a position where I have to worry about backlash from the dev studio. See, because if they tell me tomorrow morning after they see this video that I can no longer stream their game, for instance, or that if I get banned from the official EFT Discord, it doesn't matter to me anymore. I don't have to worry about Tarkov being my bread and butter. So it gives me an awful lot of freedom to talk about this stuff. And yeah, in the past, I would get worried. I would end up nervous, thinking that if I said something out of turn, it would end up costing me the ability to be able to work with or get close enough to the devs to where I would lose the favor and I wouldn't be able to talk about the news stuff having as much internal insight as I once did. But at this point, it doesn't matter to me. But it's not even so much the copyright strikes or the apparent racial stuff and the jokes that they make towards the Russian and CIS communities over in Europe. That isn't even necessarily the stuff that really gets me. The double and triple and quadrupling down, talking about how the expansions and stuff that they're putting into the game, PvE mode, isn't really a DLC, if only then to be agreed with that it is actually a DLC after all, when not only people inside of the community, but people outside of the community, like Moist Critical or Asmongold, have to get involved and be scrutinizing as hell. Hell, Linus got involved. Not even so much the $250 price tag, because we see stuff like that with Star Citizen all the time. Way more so even. But Star Citizen has never pretended to be something that it's not. No, the thing that bothers me the most is the double talk. All of this seems to culminate into like one commonality. It's like all of the gamers are the battered spouse, and Nikita and BSG are the aggressive partner that swears that they're never going to do something like this ever again. Except then they do, and it escalates, and it gets worse every single time. And for whatever reason, people, whether it's content creators just looking like they need to make a living, which I can completely respect, or gamers that just seem like they don't care whether or not they get jerked around, just take my money and let me play my video game. At some level, there's an awful lot of people that seem as though they're just willing to turn the other cheek every time Battlestate Games comes out and says, "We're sorry that you feel that way." Notice I didn't say I'm sorry, because at no point has Nikita ever said that he apologizes for anything. He apologized for us feeling the way that we do. And because I'm kind of on the outside, if I'm being honest, it isn't anything to do necessarily with BSG or me trying to hate them specifically. This could be any dev studio with the history that BSG has. Any dev studio that had pulled this would get the same reaction. To me, this reads like a giant cautionary tale, where people just seem like they don't mind getting screwed with as long as they end up being able to play the game and click on the heads that they want to click on in the game that they want to play. But in doing so, you more or less part with money in celebration of the fact that these guys have failed to deliver on the promises that they had made to us over time, and they seem to take no qualms in trying to inch further and further along down that microtransaction line in a way that looks increasingly and more increasingly predatory. And I can't help but wonder what the next whale-sized game package is going to be a year from now, when the game still isn't in 1.0 and the people that own EOD still haven't seen their PvE mode yet. Unless, of course, they're willing to pay for it, like Nikita mentioned, for 70% off. Anyway, guys, that's what I have for this one. Thanks so much for coming and checking it out. I appreciate you all. If you want to come and check me out, I'll be live tomorrow morning around 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time at twitch.tv/Onepeg. Otherwise, maybe sub the channel here. That would be awesome. Maybe even hit the bell. That would also be awesome. Thank you for lending me your eyeballs, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.